We are live. It is Thursday. It is 1 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. here in Copenhagen, where I am right now. And that means that we are live with Unfiltered Live, ready to have exciting, great conversations with people. We are test running a new platform here, as you obviously have discovered. Um, and a platform that should allow us to bring you on for live conversations, for you to ask your questions, as well as for us to get high quality recording of the content, which is something that we've been struggling a little bit with Zoom. Is that we get these like very small recordings that are really grainy, and we wanted to try and see if we could get some better footage out of it, because obviously we are here to create value for you and live on the call, but we're also here to create value for a bunch of people who get the access to the content after. So yeah, excited for this show here. A few things up front. Everything's recorded, so if you're jumping in with a question, you are going to be recorded, and that is going to be shared all over the internet, just so you're aware. Um, to ask a question, you drop your question in the chat, and then Bryson is doing the producering of this, and he will coordinate with you to get you on so you can ask your question live. And really think of a good question, a good selfish question for you to ask. Anything sort of entrepreneurship, strategy, personal growth, business growth, all that stuff is fair game. We are not here to talk about technical stuff about Simplero and how to implement things. Those are awesome questions, and we love that you have them and that you're excited to ask them. And the forum for those are our live implementation Q&As, and Beth can share the link to where you can find those. They happen also live weekly, just not this call. And boom, there's the link from Beth. So that's the place if you want to talk about how do I do this on Simplero? Does Simplero allow me to do this? All that kind of stuff. Great questions. We love them, just not the right forum for it. Yeah, here, inner game, entrepreneurship, marketing, strategy, business, team, operations, like all of those sort of higher level questions is what we're going for. All right. Everybody in the chat, let me see where you are currently calling in from. Like I said, I am over here in Copenhagen, and normally I am in New York City, but Copenhagen is where I'm from, and I'm here because my brother just turned 50 yesterday, and I got to spend yesterday evening with him and surprise my parents. They knew I was in the country, but they didn't know that I was joining for Thomas's birthday last night. So it was great to see them, see the family, and he's also celebrating on Saturday. I got to spend 4 hours doing body SDS therapy this morning, which is freaking amazing. I see people from Delray Beach, Florida. I see Nadine from Acton, Massachusetts. I see Kara from Indiana. I see Anne-Katrine from Aalborg, Denmark. And a hi there from Yes Please in Denmark. So a couple other Danes in the house. That is great. Yeah. So whenever I'm in the country, whenever I'm in Denmark, I always go get some body SDS treatments. It is phenomenal. It's my favorite sort of personal growth technology that I'm aware of. So I invest heavily in personal growth. Whether that's reading books or coaching programs or advisors, mentors, coaches, etc. It is only do it if you actually want to have an amazing life and feel good and have results. If you don't care about any of those things, like don't do it. Don't worry about that. For me, it's like last time I was here, I had also a 4 hour long session with Stefano doing the body SDS, and it really unlocked my birth trauma in a way that it never has before. I you may have heard me talk about this before, but I was born strangled in my own umbilical cord and then put in an incubator for the first 48 hours of my life. And that birth trauma created some patterns in my life that was really um, hurting my ability to be effective as a leader of a business, as well as in other areas of life, as a husband, as a father, in other areas. And so being able to go in and unlock that birth trauma has been a major unlock in my business. And investing in those types of unlocks for me, that's the gold nugget. That's like you make that switch, that inner switch, and then everything else changes downstream from that. And you don't need to make an effort to make that change. It happens. Once that switch happens, it becomes effortless, and you're just a changed person going forward. Kara is asking, is body SDS a global practice or mostly in Denmark? It is, as far as I know, only in Denmark. I think there might be a little bit in Spain, and I think maybe in Sweden. I'm not entirely sure. It is from Denmark. It's a 4-generation thing. So Erland created it years ago. His son Ole continued it. Both of those are dead now. Andrew is the founder of the education. He's trained 600 therapists or more now, I'm sure, in this technology. And then he has 5 kids that are also doing it and torchbearers of the next generation. Stefano is the son, and he's about 25 years old. So it's part of my long-term ambitions is to bring body SDS, both the therapy and the education that trains therapists, to America, because the world needs this. I have tried everything under the sun, not literally, but very close to it. And this is just, it's not the only thing that I do, but it's in a league of its own. So I really want the rest of the world to have access to it. Oh, that's amazing. And Katrina says she's a body SDS therapist. That's amazing. Yeah. So it's not available in the US, and I'm working hard to make it available, but I need one of the kids. They all have their small kids and whatnot. I need one of the youngest generation to be willing to move to the States and start an education or start it up at some point. And Katrina, if you want to move, if I can get just someone to move to the States that have the education, then I would hire them on the spot and just start doing something there. Anyway, point here is that investment in yourself just really dramatically pays off. And so just always encourage you to make that investment in yourself. Yes. In terms of, last week or maybe this week before, I don't remember exactly, one of the questions that came up, and remember, we're here to answer your questions, so throw your questions for me in the chat, and Bryson will bring you on, and then we can spitball direct. So one of the questions that came up was about perfectionism. Perfectionism, this idea that, I can't put this out because it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. It has to be, I got to be better. And it's not quite good enough. And it's very, very common. And it's very extremely common. And it's what's insidious about perfectionism. It kind of feels like a good thing, right? If you get at a job interview and you're like, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Well, my weakness is I'm a perfectionist. I just want to do too good of a job, and that's really my weakness. Well, it is a weakness. It is insecurity. It's another word for you being insecure, and you being absorbed, you being self-absorbed. You're obsessed about your own feelings rather than focusing on the people that you can help, that you're here to serve, that you're here to do something for. So it's really very self-centered, a very self-serving kind of thing to do. Not self-serving, but self-centered thing to do. And so I really want to encourage you, if that's you, and if you take pride in being a perfectionist, just stop that right now and put shit out there. Put shit out there and see what the hell happens, right? The worst that can happen is that nobody gives a damn, which happens all the time. There's there's a lot of noise out there. Or maybe some person gets upset and then so what, right? Like 5 minutes later, they've forgotten about it. And then, like, that's it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean a thing. It's like you're always going to get haters. You're always going to get people who don't like whatever you have to do. The more stuff you do, the more people are some person out there is going to find a problem with it, and that's a sign that you're winning. So don't, you know, yeah, put shit out there. Because when putting shit out there is actually, that's where you connect with people. That's where you can help people. And so if that's you that's holding back, stop it. Just stop it. And I'm happy to bring you on live, and we can have a question, a chat about it, and see what it's like for you. But I just want to reiterate it because it comes up a lot and it's so important. And today we were testing this new platform. We've never used this platform before for doing a live stream, a live show, and we're willing to make mistakes in public live with you guys here. We don't. It doesn't mean that we don't test things, right? It doesn't mean that we don't take it seriously. Although, but in the sense that Bryson and some other folks did a test of how this whole flow is going to work, and we thought through, like, what if some people still join the Zoom link, and having someone who's monitoring there and just saying, hey, look, we're over here today, and changing the link. And we Bryson and I tested it out earlier today as well together, and then as we were testing it out, accidentally turned out it was live streaming our just like bumbling around testing it out to all of the platforms, and they were like, oh, bummer. But that's okay, right? We make mistakes, and we make them in public. Like, make this your mantra. All right, make mistakes in public. Make mistakes in public. Why? Because you're going to make mistakes anyway. If you're going to be in public, you're going to be making mistakes in public. There's no way around it other than to never be in public. But then you won't have any clients, and then you won't have any impact if you're not in public, right? And also, you making mistakes in public means that other people get to see that it's okay to make mistakes in public. And so it's a way to kind of share that courage. Or share that, yeah, that love for other people by you doing your thing. I was talking to someone the other day who'd suffered from just tremendous incapacitating perfectionism and anxiety. And what she told me, I asked her, what was the switch? What was the thing that happened that made you get past this, that made you realize, oh my God, I don't need to be this anxious, that led you drop the anxiety? And what she'd said to me was, it was that I realized I wasn't alone. I got in a group of other people and some kind of program, and I realized, oh my God, everybody feels this way. Not everybody, but so many people have the exact same thoughts and feelings. I'm not alone with this, right? And that's the key. There's so much power in knowing that we're not alone with our private thoughts and belittling and all the negative self-talk. Like, we're not alone, and it's all bullshit. I love this way of thinking of, if your friends talk to you the way that you talk to yourself, would you really want to be friends with these people? Probably not, right? You should talk to yourself the way your biggest, best, cheerleading, loving friend would talk to you. That's how your self-talk needs to be. And if it's not, stop it. The negative self-talk has nothing good to offer you. Stop it. Stop listening. You can't stop the self-talk, but you can stop listening to it. You can stop taking it seriously. You can stop believe that it has anything of value to offer you. It doesn't. Stop paying attention to it and demand actual, real, positive, cheerleading self-talk, yeah, where you build yourself up. That's what we want. All right, let's take some questions. Bryson, I'm gonna let you control. All right, I see we got Nadine here. What's
Hey
up,
there.
Nadine? Hey there. What can I do for you?
Well, just so what you're saying, I was writing down make mistakes in public, loving that. And, I think just building off of that with, putting an offer out there, making a sales page, and maybe feeling like it's not quite right and revising it. Like how quickly to pivot on things, or how to like settle in and let something stew for a while to try it. Like, maybe there's no one right answer, of course, but what's your experience telling you that you want to share with us?
Yeah, what is it you have out there that you're thinking about?
This is just specifically a particular workshop. It's just like a 3 hour workshop. It's got a low entry price to it. And partly, I think it's the language. I'm surprised it's not doing better.
And
Um,
by doing better, you mean selling?
yeah, selling.
Yeah, yeah. And how are you driving people to buy it?
That could be a big part of the problem, was getting it out there enough in that.
So what's the
But
sales process?
getting it, so the audience, I belong to a dedicated Facebook group that is the main audience, so I share it there, and then
Mhm.
it's shared on another website that kind of have as a catalog of professional development classes,
Right.
and this is one of those.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story. So years ago, I put out an offer and I worked really hard on it and, writing all the sales copy and then sending out an email. And I was really excited about it. I was like, oh my God, this is going to do so well. And then nothing, like literally nothing. And I was crushed. And honestly, just one sale would have made me happy. It was that kind of deal where it was like, just want to see one sale of this thing. And there's literally nothing. And I almost cried. And then 3 days later, I discovered that there was one sale, but for whatever reason, something had happened where it didn't show up for me. But there was actually one sale, and so it was like, so I was crying for 3 days over nothing, over just being mistaken about what had happened. So I'm sharing that story because what I would do if the way that you're trying to put it out there is you're just writing something up and like boom, here's a link, like, and then you're hoping that people go buy. And I understand it's a low ticket offer, then there could be a whole range of reasons why that people aren't buying, right? Usually they're like they need to build some, know, like, and trust factor, or maybe the offer is great but the timing's wrong, or maybe there's like some objection that they have that you didn't answer. It can be like when we're sitting there and we're just like, oh, it didn't work, and then we start speculating and then we're like, oh, it's probably this, it's probably that, and like, and maybe the problem is like just like this tiny thing down here in the corner. So what I would do is go talk to some people, right? Like, hey, did you see this? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to get you to buy. I'm just curious how that landed for you, how that resonated for you, what went through your head. You want to get some rich data from people to base your pivot on. So you're not just trying things blindly.
Okay, great. Yeah, because that's what one of the things I'm wondering. It's a 3 hour workshop, and I feel like that makes the time of the workshop really spacious, but I'm just shooting in the dark without talking to people. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And then we're like, my tendency anyway is like to go kind of to the worst, like they all hate me and it's there, like, or something. Right. And it's like, oh no, it was just like this thing over here.
yeah,
So yeah, get data, get info.
yeah. And I just want to say, I really resonate with that, the psychological aspect of just like not putting it out there in multiple different ways because I don't want it to be rejected and then
Right.
it's not taken up. So,
Yeah. So I mean, kudos for you for putting it out there, right? That's the first step. And now you can have a conversation with people and you can see what's up and what's working,
yeah.
what's not. Yeah.
And is there a time frame? So I hear you're saying not really, don't really pay attention to the time, but just talk to people, get some real feedback before you
Yeah.
make any change, and base it on that
Yeah.
rather than waiting.
Yeah, I also say like, give it a little bit of time, but not too much time, right? If people are interested, they're going to buy fairly quickly. They need to hear about it multiple times. I think the number they say is 7, 8 times, but I've also heard people say, well, these days with social media and information overload, they need to hear about it 30, 40 times, right? So in that sense, be patient, but be impatient with getting information, getting data, right? So and we also don't want to just like keep spamming people with, or quote unquote spamming, but keep hitting people with a message that's not resonating. So we want to try to figure that out pretty early on.
And do you feel like the best way is, I mean, you may have already said this, but to just reach out to people one on one and just kind of ask them and just invite people into
100%.
conversations?
100%, right? And make it clear that it's not a sales conversation, right? You're asking for help. Here's a power trick: is asking for help is a gift to other people, because you're giving them purpose. Like, you're giving them something to do that's meaningful, and people really like that. So you asking, "Hey, would you help me with this, with some information? Like, I put this out there, and I have a feeling that it's not connecting with people in the way that I want it to, and I'm not sure what about it is not connecting, and I'd just love to hear your input. It would really help me if you would, do that for me," right? People are going to love that. And the right people are going to love that. And then that might lead into a sales conversation, but you don't start that conversation, period, right? But if they come and they say, like, "I actually might really be interested in this. Can you tell me more about," like, boom, now you're in, right? But wait till they do that.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure. Great to meet you, Nadine. And good
Nice.
for
Same
you
here.
for putting it out there and for
Thank you.
jumping on
And
board. First person.
thank you. And I just have to say, I love Somplero. So happy with the platform. Of course, I have my wish list of things that I'm adding into the feature requests, but I'm just like, it's awesome. Thank you for creating this.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. You're allowed to say that. I love hearing that. Thank you so much, Nadine. It's a pleasure. All right. Cool. Bryson, who do we got next? All right. Cool. Well, can you direct people from who asked the questions who should go next? And then we can go. I see Anna Katrina had a question. I saw, who else are we seeing? I see Kimberly calling in. Let's do it. All right.
This is me, like possibly with COVID, back in bed. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
All right.
can. Absolutely.
So, okay, so here's the deal. I am like extremely emotionally sensitive, like far more than the average person. I'm going to be very vulnerable here and say that I probably have like a legit like personality disorder called borderline personality disorder, which literally means like your emotions are just super intense, and it's literally like I feel like it's what gives me a superpower when it comes to music, because my music is very it taps into emotions. But I think what's always held me back is like I used to do something called Patreon. I would have people signed up for $1, $5, $20 a month. When I would lose one subscriber for $1 a month, I felt like I was dying because somebody went out of their way to stop giving me that $1, and I felt like I must just be the worst person in the world. So, do you think it's possible for someone like me who's extra sensitive, or I mean, I'm being a little facetious here, or should I just give up because I'm too sensitive and it's just not I'm not created for entrepreneurship?
Do I think, well, let me ask you this. What do you want?
I want to believe in myself so much and what I'm doing that even when, because the way I'm doing this, the way I'm going to do this, people are going to unsubscribe and cancel their memberships. I mean, I'm doing a membership site. That is just the reality of it. So I
Right.
want to change my belief system so that it just like I could go either way. If they sign up, great. I'm excited. I want to serve them. If they cancel, it's like, okay, good. That's the way the energy is
Yeah,
shifting right now. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, so my answer is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I believe that you absolutely can, right? I don't think that our creator gives us desires in that way without also giving us the capacity, the capability to fulfill that desire. That's just a belief that I have.
Okay.
I don't have any proof for it, but what I do know is that having that belief is helpful, right? It makes me better. So, having the opposite belief is not helpful.
Okay.
So there's that. So 100%, and just choose to believe in yourself, right? Because what's the alternative? Like, if you don't believe in yourself, you will fail. If you believe yourself, you will have the experience, right? You will have a shot at it. We
Yeah.
never know what life is going to bring. We never know that, like, success is never guaranteed. But if you choose to believe in yourself, at least you have a fair shot.
Okay. Can I ask you one more quick question since I'm already here?
Yeah. No, but I want to touch on the what you said as well. You can ask all the questions you want. So in terms of the people unsubscribing or canceling their membership site, or not but their membership and the Patreon thing, what I would say is this: turn it around and celebrate them choosing what's right for them.
Yes.
Cheer for them,
Yes.
right? Don't make it about you. It has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
It's them choosing how they want to direct their resources, and that's what we all need to do. They're modeling
Yeah.
the importance of directing our resources in the most effective way.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next question. I'm going through like a massive evolution with my business and also personally. Is it possible to have a private life? Because I feel like everyone's on social media like, hey, this is like my whole private life. Can you have a private life that, you don't share publicly, or do you feel like you have to have all that sorted out in order to?
No.
Yeah.
You can 100% be in the public with your work and have a private life. 100%, right? So it's 100% up to you what you share and what you don't share.
Okay.
Right? If you want no personal stuff, or like you choose like for example, like you don't want your family or like whatever, like whatever parts, you can completely design how you want to show up in public and how you don't want.
Okay.
And there's no requirement that you include all the parts. Now, there's strength in showing the personal side and the vulnerability and all of that stuff, but it's 100% up to you how you want to play the game.
Okay, that's good to know, because I feel like there's this persona of a piano teacher that I've always put myself in these boxes. Like, I must be this perfect piano teacher and have everything figured out. And I'm not that. Like, I'm not that at all.
That's the other thing too, is like nobody is like the perfect anything. Nobody has got it all figured out. Like nobody. Literally nobody. Right? So you thinking that you need to have it all figured out is like, no, that's weird.
It's boring.
So
horrible. So boring.
I know. And it's one of the ways that we can really hurt ourselves. What I was doing for years was I had this unconscious story in my head that said I have to be a billionaire, like a massive entrepreneurial success at the level of like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and that kind of stuff by the age of 30, or I should not exist and go kill myself. Right?
Hey,
it's
like, right there with you, but it was like music stuff.
Right.
Same exact.
But imagine a world where only those people existed. There would be like 5 people in the world, and it would be boring as fuck. Right? Like, what would you do? Just hang out with the same 5 people all the time? Like, it's boring. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I have the same thing, because like by the time I turned 30, a lot of my peers were making, X amount of money through X amount of way, like a certain way they were making their money, all through streaming and stuff. And it's like, I just hadn't hit that success. But if I had done it their way and hit that success, then I wouldn't be on this call with you. I wouldn't be doing Simplero, and I wouldn't honestly probably be helping other people in the way I do. So nothing against them, but this is my unique path.
Exactly, right? You're being redirected.
Yeah.
Like there's another version of Kimberly that's not who you thought that you had to be. And that's the person we want to get extremely curious about. Who is this person? And bring her out and love her and cheer her on, right? Like, It's like a parent looking at their child and being like, I want my kid to be this way, and having like zero capacity to see the child as it really is.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And remember too, I wanted to say also, just for all of us, right? All of us, it's the fact that our superpower comes from our kryptonite, right? They're linked.
Yeah.
They're always linked. Your superpower always
That's
comes
my
from your
emotional sensitivity. Yeah.
exactly, right? It always comes from that core wound, core thing that's also messing things up for you, and that's how it goes. And it's learning to take the superpower without getting hurt by the kryptonite, and that's the life journey for all of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Calvin.
you're my pleasure. Very welcome. Great
See
to
you
see you
next
again,
week.
Kimberly.
Okay. Bye.
All right, bet. All right, all right, cool. I'm
I'm
excited to
here.
see you next. Hey, Carrie.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
My question is, I've done all the things, like the landing page, the freebie, the lead magnets, the email chains. Like I've done all these things in different iterations of my business. But now I have a clearer niche, a more specific focus, and I'm ready to kind of do it again, but I want to do it in the right order. And
Mm,
I feel like got all this advice is swimming in my head about different things about the free video masterclass or the landing
mhm.
page, etc., all the things. And I'm just wondering, is there a good rundown or resource, or maybe we could just verbally say it, of what order do we create these things? And whenever I go to create, because I'm just kind of a creator, and I realize, oh wait, I should pre-sell this before I create it, or I should do the market research calls again. And I'm just like, where do I begin again?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel you. Yes, there is, and the answer is you. I can't give you a cookie cutter answer, but I can give you the method of how to get there, and that is you work backwards.
Hmm.
So what is the end that you want to see? Right. What is it you want people? I'm assuming we're talking sales here. So what is the thing that you want people to buy, and who do you want to buy it?
Well, I am a communication coach, and I've do work around storytelling. So public speaking coaching is something that I've done, and I now have created a new service where I help find your story, script it, and create an animated explainer video for it. But
Okay.
beyond that, so that's like the specialty area, right? But then this next step I want to do is create like a group program where I can help professionals develop the 6 stories that every leader needs to have. And I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking the people I've worked with so far and these other smaller things could be a good audience that will buy this bigger thing, like an 8-week program that's virtual, and there's materials, but there's also calls and stuff. So that's
I
the
love it.
thing
Okay,
I'm thinking of
so
selling.
the thing to sell is this group program that helps leaders develop the 6 stories that every leader needs to know. Yeah,
Hmm. Yes.
good. And what's the price point?
I'm thinking 2,500 at this point.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's pretty affordable. And then, and how many people do you need in there?
I think,
A lot.
probably under 10, I mean, somewhere like 6 or 8 would be fine as a first go out, with it.
Okay, all right. So let's say 8 people in your group program at 25 earner pop. Okay, great. That's your target, right?
Right.
So then you work backwards from that. What absolutely needs to be in place? Well, for starters, at a $2,500 price point, that's typically not I see a sales page and I read it and I just click buy. That's usually a sales conversation. So first, we know you don't need a sales page. You just don't.
Okay. Well, that eliminates
No
that,
sales
doesn't
page.
it?
Right. You don't need anything in writing about the program whatsoever, other than what you need. Like just like write up a Google Doc or an Apple Notes or whatever about like what's involved and what are the key benefits that people get from it and how's it going to run and what's the price. And then you need to get some people on calls
Hmm.
and talk to
Okay.
them. And so where are those people? And what you can do very simply send out like a 2-line email that says, "Hey, I've been working on this program that I think could really help someone like you develop the 6 stories that you need that you need to know, so that, and then you explain what that would give, you know, let me know if this sounds like something you'd be interested in hearing more about, for example. And
Mhm.
then people reply back and say, yeah, I'm interested. And then you get on calls with all those people.
Okay, right. And this is ringing a bell as far as like the price points of what you would have when you would have a sales page is like under 1,000, I want to say, or isn't there a
Yeah.
marker that you had given before?
Yeah, 1,000, sometimes 2,000. It depends on a lot on your marketing and your audience and stuff. But like, if you're not a sort of a top marketer with a massive list, then yeah, I would say $1,000 is a good point.
Okay. So if
Yeah,
I were to create anything else in the future about, and it was less than 1,000, then that's when I would do the sales page and all that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
exactly.
I'm such a creator, so that's my comfort zone. So I immediately
Right.
want to go create
Right.
the things.
Well, that's your insecurity, right? That's your insecurity because you don't want to step into what's
What's
uncomfortable and
what's
insecure.
uncomfortable.
We all
Yeah.
do that. And yeah, so make sure that you step out of that. It might, if it were up to me, I would spend all day, every day, only doing product, only working on making the product better. And I do spend a fair bit of time on that, I will say,
Right.
but I also need to do the other things, right? So it's just, we
Yeah.
have to. Yeah.
Good point. Okay. Thanks so much.
But the beauty of this is exactly that you work backwards from what is the actual specific result that I want. 8 people buying this program at this price point, what absolutely needs to be in place, and only those things that absolutely need to be in place are the ones that you do.
So it's not as though, again, being that falling back on that default of, obviously the priority would be like what you just said, outreach. Where's the interest? Do I have 6 to 8 people? Oh, sorry. And if I don't, fill it to the extent that I can, and then, not necessarily create the thing at all, like no modules or anything like that. I mean, no need
No.
to just get the people in there and work through it together.
You just have a rough idea about what you want to deliver, and you know that you can deliver on it, and just enough to give people a sense of what's coming. And you can always, like, once you're doing the program, you'll have people helping you shape the program because they will tell you what they need. And oh, is a little too little about this, and what about this other thing? And so you'll co-create the program with them, which is ideal.
Right.
And so then the next question is, how many people do you need to get on calls with to get 8 people in the program? And depending on how good you are at sales and how good, and don't think of it as sales as much as just you're just having conversations with people, trying
Mhm.
to, with the aim of helping them solve their needs, solve their problems, and get their needs met, right? And if your program happens to be a good fit for that, that's great. But if it's not, that's totally fine too, right? So it's really not like sales. It's you're
Mhm.
just having conversations, trying to serve people. But depending on how that goes and your connection with the audience and how good a match it is, I would say you should expect to close anywhere from 20% to 50% of those conversations.
Mhm.
So on the worst case, I would say you need to have 40 conversations, right? Somewhere between 16 and 40 conversations, if you want to say have 8. And then how many people do you need to then, you know, put an email in front of or post on social media, whatever, to get them to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to get on a call, right? That depends.
Mhm.
Um, but
So how
that's the
that brings up another question is how do you then, if you haven't created it and all that, and you're doing this to get the interest, and then people are asking you, well, what's in it? What's it like? Because of course they will want to know the details, and you're like, you just be transparent with them and say,
No,
we're,
so you map out, so you do that, but just for yourself in advance, saying, well, it's going to be, 8 weeks, I think you said.
yeah.
And, week 1, we're doing this, week 2, week 3. So you map it out for yourself, but you don't need to present anything in writing to them. You can just go over it on a call with them.
Hmm.
But you have a structure in mind. But you
Right.
also, once you start running it, you're open to adjusting that structure based on what you learn from them. But
Okay. Gotcha.
you have thought it through, so you know that you can deliver on your promise, and you can talk to them about like how in this week we're meeting this promise that I made, and then this week is where we're addressing this promise, and like you have 6 stories and 8 weeks, so an intro week, 6 stories weeks,
Right.
and then a tying it all together kind of week seems like a good flow, and then I'd
Hmm.
add in like after we're done, there's some bonus like Q&A or additional coaching helping people to make sure that they get the results. And you can even say, hey, like for up to a year, I'll jump on a call with you and help you brainstorm this, whatever you're comfortable with, in terms of your commitment. And I would be curious about, like, my inclination would be to double your price point and then
Okay,
offer
I
even
like it.
more in terms of, yeah, because if you're an entrepreneur, like that's not unusual, and what you're offering people is critical, right? Very,
Mhm.
very important for business. Being able to communicate and tell stories is so important. So they're going to make money from that, and then I would use that extra revenue to just um, make you comfortable investing even more in really making sure that every single person gets tremendous value from this program, because then you will also like not just do good by your customers, which is always critical, but you also have some really great case studies from it after, right, which
Right,
then is going
right.
to help you sell the next cohort.
What gave me this idea just to offer too is that I did a recent talk for my Chamber of Commerce, and I was speaking about storytelling in general. And during that talk, I mentioned these 6 stories, and the people
Mhm.
at the chamber were like, "Ooh, what is that?" And they were so curious. So I thought,
Yeah.
"Aha, this is a good
Well,
idea."
I'm curious too. I
Okay,
am.
awesome. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate that.
You bet. Yeah, my pleasure. So cool. Thanks for coming on here and for asking your question. This is what it's all about.
Absolutely,
Appreciate you for
absolutely. Thanks.
doing that. Yeah. Let's do it. Look at us go. This whole new technology thing is actually working. That's exciting. Hey, Anne, I can barely hear you though. I don't know. The audio is very soft. Is there a volume switch setting somewhere? There's something there. Yeah. Like, go. Nope. Damn it. I heard some scratching, but now there's no audio at all for me. Hmm. Let's see. I don't know. I'm not sure how to. Is that? Yeah. Oh, no, I'm getting a red triangle as well. All right. Cool. I think we're having some connection issues there. While while Anna is figuring that out, um, yeah, I was just thinking, for all of you guys watching, that like for you, what is it for you that you want to reach, and then what is the goal that you have, and then doing that exercise of thinking backwards of like, what exactly do I need to get there, and anything that isn't absolutely required to get there, just throw that away. The way that we get to our destination, the best, the fastest, the simplest, the cheapest, all of those good things, is by only doing what's required to get there and nothing else. It's funny. I was having a conversation with a friend about weight loss a couple weeks ago, and he was able to really reframe it for me in a way that I hadn't thought before. Because I was always like about, well, like, avoid sugars and sweet stuff, and avoid artificial sweeteners, and avoid bread and wheat and those kinds of things, and like more meat and more this, that, and ketosis and keto, and like there's all kinds of things that people talk about to lose weight. And the way he framed it, which isn't necessarily 100% true, but it's very effective. He said, well, the way that he does it is he just does it based on calories, and so he'll do a 3 week crash diet where he only gets on average 1,000 calories a day, and that's gonna just he's gonna lose so much weight doing that. Like it's the body fat is just really literally like dripping off of him, not literally, but you get the idea. And it's just simple. But those 1,000 calories can be just whatever, anything, doesn't matter. Obviously, the healthier you eat, the better it's going to be. But if the goal is just to lose weight, his process 3 weeks of just 1,000 calories a day, get the job done. Super super simple. And then he'll do 2 months of maintenance of just staying at that level, and then he'll do another 3 weeks of crash dieting, really cutting. And I was just like, you know what? I've never thought of it that way, but it's I've heard before people talk about, it's really calories in, calories out. And this is not to talk about weight loss, right? It's a metaphor for just finding that simple way to look at things that lets you get to the goal super fast, right? And yeah, so I've heard before people talk about it's calories in, calories out, I and it might be completely accurate. I do think that it matters what those calories are. I've read studies on that, but again, it just makes it so complicated. And then if you what I would end up doing would be like, oh, steak is healthy, or this like ginger juice is healthy, or whatnot. And so, or berries are healthy. And then I just eat more of that, and I'd end up just eating a ton of stuff, right? Because I'm like, well, there's this thing, and this is also healthy, and this is also healthy. And it's like, just focus on the portion size. Just focus on, I would never be one to count calories, probably, but like really focusing on the amount. So again, the point here being, what is the goal and what is the fastest way to get there? It's such a powerful way to look at it. All right, Bryson, do we have another caller? Or do we have Anne able to? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Hi. I don't know for sure that I've got your whole question in, Catherine, but I understood you to be saying that you were going to start adding in online teaching, and you've only been doing one on one work previously to that. So, like, Calvin, if you could share some thoughts about how to make that transition or some things to watch out for.
Yeah. Well, a great way to start is to take your one-on-one clients and then give them some recorded content, right? So as part of a program, so you don't want to sell individual sessions because that it's too fluffy. What you want to do is you want to have a program that says, all right, it's a 3-month program or a 6-month program, and here's the outcome that you're going to have. And as part of this program, you're not only like the one-on-one sessions is just a part of the program. The pre-recorded materials that you're going to go through on your own at home, and then that's going to enable us to do so much more in the sessions that we have together one-on-one. So you're going to get much more value from these sessions because you're prepared and you've done your homework. And maybe there's a group community component as well, where you get to interact with and share and learn from the other members. And that's also a tremendous value for people to, again, see that they're not alone, right? To learn from other people in their place from their peers. So that is how I would go about that transition. And eventually you can transition out of doing the one-on-one completely if you want, or you can keep doing one-on-one if you love it, but now you can charge more for it so that you have more time and more revenue, and so that you can invest more in building the group and the recorded stuff. That's how you do it.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
All right.
And
Makes a
Catherine, do
lot
you
of
have any
sense to me
follow-up
too.
questions? You can put them in the chat if you want to.
All right. Cool. Nice. Yeah. What else we got? If nothing else, let me hear from everybody in the chat though. Like so far, what is your, or not so far, but what is your biggest takeaway from this conversation tonight? Or I say night because it's night for me here today. What has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation here today? I want to hear in the chat. And while you guys type, Um, all right. Actually, Carrie says, take away, just start conversations about it already. Yes, that's great. Um, looks like Bryson has a question. Do you want to jump on and ask it? Don't believe your negative self-talk. Yeah. Learn from the. It won't show you. All right. Well, you can ask. Okay, we can do that too. Yeah. Right. Well, there are always people, offers, businesses that thrive through a recession, right? I actually really like recessions in the sense that it cuts out the wheat, or it separates the wheat from the chaff. Is that what they say? Right? It's like it cuts out some of the weak companies or some of the like unsustainable people. I remember during the first .com crash, I was in technology back then as well. I was working for a tech startup that ended up kind of folding, not technically folding. They got sold to another company for pennies. But there's this in 2003. There was this dawn that happened. It was like a new dawn of the internet world. And it was such a blessing that all of these overfunded, VC funded companies were gone, because that meant that the craftspeople and the people who cared and all of that stuff, they got front row seats again, because they weren't being drowned out by all of these investors who were just throwing money at everything. So I think there's something beautiful. And Simplera was started during a recession. I started in 2009, and I got started in this business in 2008 of doing online courses and all that stuff. So it's a great time to do this type of work during a recession. You just have to figure out who are the people who have problems, and there are lots of them, who also have money to pay for the getting those problems solved, and serving them, helping them get their problems solved. So it's always a great time to be an entrepreneur. It's always a great time to be in the business of serving, helping other people. There are always going to be people who have needs. It's just a matter of positioning yourself right. Obviously, if you're like, oh my God, the economy is terrible, and wine and this, that, and the other thing, and like it's all terrible and yada, 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 then yeah, you're not going to get anywhere, right? But though that's not how we operate here. So I know that's not how you operate too. Yeah. Let me see some other takeaways here that I saw. Fail publicly. Yeah, Kimberly says, I cannot tell you how much of a fear that typically is. Reinforcement about direct sales for high ticket items. Work backwards from what you want. Step into your insecurity. Um, yeah, make mistakes in public. Cool. Kimberly says, also the fact that you're traveling and still doing this live stream and trying a new platform is inspiring. If that were me, I feel like in the past I would get really overwhelmed and let worries take over. Yeah, 100%. And I'll be here in Copenhagen as well next week, and I'm 100% committed to making this happen, no matter what. Right? It's every week at 1 p.m. on Thursdays. So very, very high priority to make that happen every single week. And I think there's really real power in that kind of commitment and consistency, especially because we're doing this live together. So I really want to get everybody in the habit of just knowing and trusting that it's happening. If it's Thursday is 1 p.m. Eastern, this show is happening. But also, I think we overlook the importance and power of making promises and commitments to ourselves. Right? The commitments you make to yourselves should be your most sacred commitments. Usually, it's the other way around, that we make commitments to others and we take those more seriously than the commitments that we make to ourselves. And it's a weird mindset when you think about it, because the most important person in your life really needs to be you. And if it's not, then again, then we're back to the negative self-talk, right? If you're not the most important person in your life, who's telling you that you're not the most important person in your life? You got to have a very serious conversation with that voice and say, look, listen, you're mistaken. Like, I'm the boss here. I'm the most important person in my life. So when I make a commitment to me, that's something that really has power and that really needs to be honored. It's sacred. So remember that, right? And I think, again, and training yourself up to knowing that a commitment that you make to yourself is serious, that you're serious about it, that you mean business when you commit to something to yourself. And for me, this is a commitment that I'm making to you guys, that we're doing this at Thursdays at 1 p.m. But my primary commitment is to me. I make a commitment to me that I'm going to do it come rain or shine. Even if for 10 weeks straight, not a soul shows up, I'm going to be here and I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to be recording content, even if I'm talking to myself. And that's just how this is going to go, because I've made a commitment to do the show. All right. So with that, I want to thank you all for showing up. It's so great to see you. It's been great to Kimberly. You win the prize for having been here every single week, and I think I've talked to you every single week. I love it. I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much that means to me, actually. I really love that. And everybody else, I'm so glad that you are here. And yeah, I want this to be the best use of your time ever. We got some feedback from last week's show that people were bored with the technical, Simplero kind of technical questions. And I'll tell you kind of the story of that, because we were clear from the beginning that that's not what this show is about. It's about the inner game and the strategy and all these other things, which it's much funner for me to talk about as well. But last week when we were doing the show, a couple things happened. There were so many people who had raised their hand and were ready with questions that I was like, all right, you know what? Let's just get into the questions. That instead of what I normally do, which is I tell a couple stories up front that kind of pre-frame what the questions are about and what the topic is, right? So I didn't do that. I didn't model for people what the topic was. And then when people started to ask those kind of technical questions, I was thinking, well, my job here is to serve. And so if those are the questions that people have, I will answer those questions. I try to steer the conversation in a direction that would have more generally applicable value. But I was like, I'm here to serve. That's what I'm here to do. But then what reframed it for me was that someone wrote me after and said, you know what? I was really disappointed because you had said clearly that this isn't in the emails and whatnot, that this was not for technical questions. This is for all the other stuff. And then you didn't hold people to that expectations that you had said. And I felt like it was a waste of my time watching it. And that really flipped it in my mind of like, oh shit, you're right. I'm not just here to serve the people who show up with their questions, but I'm as much here to serve everybody who's watching live and make sure that I be the steward of the time and make sure that it's a good use of your time for being here, right? Everybody who's here, that is a good use of your time to watch, to spend an hour in our company. And so I want to honor that commitment going forward. And so I'm going to make sure that, we're just lovingly telling people if we get other technical questions going forward, which today we didn't. But if that happens, I'm just going to lovingly say, hey, like, I love that you want to know the answer to that. And this is not the forum for it, but here is the forum for it. And if you have a question around some of the other stuff that we're here to talk about, I'd love to hear it. So, we keep learning and evolving and dialing it in and getting better at this. And that's how we do it. That's the other power of making that commitment to the regular routine, right? It's like put out something shitty and then they make it better and better and better. If you look at the iPhone, as a lot of us have an iPhone, the first iPhone was revolutionary, but also kind of shitty in many ways. And then the next one was better. And the next one was better, and the next one was better. And then every single year, they just make a better damn iPhone. And after like 14, 15 years, it's pretty darn good, right? So that's how I want you to think about business, and everything that you do is It doesn't have to, none of it has to be perfect ever. You just have to put stuff out there and keep putting stuff out there and keep making it better every single week, every single day. And that's how you win. And with that, my friends, again, it's an honor to spend an hour in your company. I'm so blessed and so grateful that you're out all here. And I hope that this adds value to your day. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 6 days and 23 hours. Much love to you guys.